You're watching In the Office. My name is Bray. Let's do some quote learning. Today for episode number 13, I want to cover this idea about how well are you managing. Now, I'm not talking about how well are you managing your emotions. I'm not talking about how well that you're managing the balance between the work-life stress. Today, I want to ask you, how well are you managing your finances? I don't want you to go to the comment section and confess all of your indiscretions, because understand, we all have them. This is nothing meant to beat anybody down. Simply, this is meant to encourage you that today is the best day for you to get started on fixing things that you see in your life that are not the way that you wish that they were. Dave Ramsey has a quote, and this is what it says: pick your poor. Are you house poor, car poor, or nickel and diming yourself to death poor? Now let's quickly go through those three, and then we will give you a chance to get out of here so that you can work on some of this week. The first one, house poor. What is your mortgage? That's usually the biggest number in everybody's budget, is housing expenses. He said in one of his podcasts that the average family house has doubled in size, but their family size has been cut in half. If you think about that for a second, that means that we're having more empty space per body year over year. And that's not a good thing, because you're still paying for all that house. You can only occupy one room at a time. So why have all this extra space if you're not using it, if you're still making the climb in life? When you look around, you see your grandparents have a house that looks nice and hospitable and can invite a bunch of people over at one time. Probably they worked up to it over decades. We're not able to start out right out of the gate being like our grandparents most of the time without putting ourselves in a very difficult financial hardship. So look at your mortgage and see if there's anything that you can do to adjust it. Maybe you can sell your home. Right now is a good housing market, and move in with some relatives, or maybe you can sell it for a profit and move into an apartment for a couple of years until maybe the housing market cools and you can get back into a house just right. There are choices, there are options out there, but maybe you should be looking into that if you feel like you're house poor and your mortgage is crippling you, and make a decision accordingly. The next poor is car poor. Nobody can wave the car poor flag like I can. I can swing two of them around like them people out there marching with the band. I'm just telling you, that's what I could do. I went through a string of buying new cars and trading them in and rolling negative equity into the next terrible decisions. Now, that means that I have some battle scars from it. Currently, I drive a very old car. It's a 2012 Hyundai Sonata, and guess what? It's paid for. And let me go and give you a quote from my granddad, Mike Watson, that really stuck with me. I think he probably told me this when I was 14 years old. Son, one day you're really going to appreciate a paid-off car that's good on gas and cheap to insure, end quotes. And can I say to my granddad, Grandpa Mike, you were dead on right. Thank you for that advice. My wife's car is also paid for. It's not cheap to insure, and it's not good on gas. That Tahoe drinks it. Just turns up the gas. But it's a whole lot better situation than when we had two car payments, because the average car payment in America is $520, plus your insurance cost, because you have to carry full coverage insurance on a car that has a note, is another $100 to $200, plus your fuel. So you can be anywhere from $600 to $850 a month on just one car. Think if you're a married couple with two. If you were to take one car and sell it off and get you something that you can pay for quickly, then you're going to have left over at the end of, say, a year's time, $5,000 to $7,000. That's the missing link in your retirement. And if you could take that $5,000 to $7,000 and put it in a retirement account, by the time you get to age 65, you've got yourself a decent situation. Another quote from one of the older men that I work with at the bus company, he said this: son, if I knew I was going to live this long, I'd have took better care of myself. And that's true of all of us. We're probably going to live a little bit longer than we give ourselves credit for, Lord willing, and we need to plan for the future, because it's not just about you and I. It's about our future families. It's about the generations to come. The Bible says that a godly man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So once we're able to kind of get ourselves stable, then we can look at the possibility of having that money set aside for our children's first car, or to help with their college, to help pay for some of their wedding, some of their down payment on their starter home, college funds for our grandchildren, and going down the list of things that you could do as legacy generosity. That's something that you and I want to be about. But maybe being car poor has us from being able to do that at this time. We just have to make adjustments, and with adjustments comes different outcomes, and that's what we're trying to go for. And the last category is, are you nickel and diming yourself to death poor? The nickel and diming yourself to death poor is when every single day you stop and you get breakfast at McDonald's or Starbucks, and then you get a snack at work, and then at lunch you go out and you eat out, and then you add on dessert, and it's just and then you add cheese in your eggs at Waffle House. That's kind of an inside joke for some of us here in the South. Or when you ask for a 2-egg breakfast and they say, what meat do you want? But you're clever enough to know that 2-egg breakfast does not come with meat. Meat is an additional $2 to $3. Knowing those little things and choosing to act accordingly, and not nickel and diming yourself to death. So many people today have these habits that are hard to break but are worth breaking because it's costing you so much money, whether it's smoking or dipping or energy drinks. You could get a 2-for-1. You could get a healthier life, and you could get more money back in your pocket. But there's a million ways to work on getting better at that. Some days you can go without taking your debit card with you. You can just put a $20 bill in your pocket and try to make it the whole day without breaking it. Put a sack lunch in your car as you're going to work. Ride to work with somebody else. Tons of options for you to begin to cut back. My suggestion is figuring out your personality. How are you wired? Do you have an addictive personality, or are you more disciplined? If you have an addictive personality, then you probably have to break that cycle. That's the Dave style. You've got gazelle intensity. You're not going to be able to just do the a little here, a little there. You're going to have to do a lot and overhaul it right now. Or if you're more disciplined, then maybe you can make subtle changes. It doesn't make your life extraordinarily different. But either way, making changes today will lead to being in a better place years down the road. And that's where I want you to be. Because Christians ought to be the most generous people among the nations. We ought to be the people that manage our finances well, that are able to bless other people because we have some margin. We have something left over to be able to invest in ministry and missions and just blessing people anonymously when we see a need arise. But we can't do that if we're house poor, car poor, nickel and diming ourselves to death poor. We need to identify what poor we are and make changes. That way we can serve the Lord with what He's given us for the time that we have remaining. You be thinking on that. Go to Dave Ramsey's website or another financial website. I know Dave's has tons of things that you can print off and work through, and even an app for your phone, Every Dollar budgeting app. Get one of those. Be working through that, and we will see you next time.